You've been told that declining libido and poor blood flow after 50 are just part of getting older, that your body simply doesn't respond the way it used to, that the spark you once had, the drive, the stamina, the confidence, those are things you need to accept letting go of. And maybe you've even started believing it, but here's the truth no one tells you. Your body isn't broken, it's starved. And what it's starving for isn't sitting in a prescription bottle or hidden behind some expensive treatment protocol. It's sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now, ignored, underestimated, and completely misunderstood. My name is Dr. Sarah Whitman, and for over a decade, I've worked with men over 50 who come into my clinic frustrated, exhausted, and quietly embarrassed. They don't say it outright, but I can see it in their eyes. They feel like they're disappearing, like the version of themselves they remember is slipping further away every year. And the worst part, most of them have already tried everything. The supplements, the diets, the exercise routines, they've done what they were told to do, and still, nothing changed. I see this every single day. But here's what I've also seen. When these same men finally understand what's actually happening inside their bodies at the cellular level, and when they start giving their system what it's truly asking for, everything shifts. Not overnight, but steadily, powerfully, undeniably. And it starts with something most men walk past in the spice aisle without a second thought. Let me explain what's really going on. Inside your body right now, there's a microscopic highway system. It's called your vascular endothelium. Think of it as the inner lining of every blood vessel you have. And this lining does something absolutely critical. It produces a molecule called nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide is one of the most important signaling molecules your body makes. It tells your blood vessels to relax, to open up, to let blood flow freely. When nitric oxide levels are strong, blood reaches every organ, every tissue, every cell that needs it, including the ones responsible for libido, stamina, and performance. But here's the problem. After age 40, your body's ability to produce nitric oxide starts to decline. Not because you're lazy, not because you're out of shape, but because the enzymes responsible for making nitric oxide begin to lose their efficiency. The factory that once ran at full capacity starts slowing down. And when nitric oxide drops, blood flow suffers, circulation weakens, oxygen delivery declines, nutrient transport slows. And the organs that depend on robust blood flow, especially in moments of arousal and physical demand, simply don't get what they need. So you feel it in your energy, in your stamina, in your confidence, and yes, in the bedroom. This isn't about age, it's about biology, and once you understand that, everything changes. Now, most men, when they start noticing these changes, do what their doctor tells them to do. They take a prescription, and look, I'm not here to bash medications. They serve a purpose. But here's what they don't do. They don't restore your body's ability to make nitric oxide. They force a response. They override your system temporarily. That's not restoration, that's compensation. And your body knows the difference. What you actually need is to reactivate the biological pathways that have gone quiet, to wake up the enzymes, to feed the system, to give your vascular endothelium the raw materials it needs to start producing nitric oxide again on its own. That's where real vitality comes from, not from forcing your body to perform, but from helping it remember how. So let's reframe this. Food is not just fuel, food is information. Every bite you take sends signals to your cells, tells your enzymes what to do, instructs your systems on how to behave. And when you eat the right compounds at the right time in the right combination, you can actually flip biological switches that have been turned off for years. This isn't about eating more vegetables or cutting out sugar, though those things help. This is about targeting specific pathways with specific molecules that your body recognizes, responds to, and uses immediately. And one of the most powerful, most overlooked compounds for vascular health and nitric oxide production is something you've probably never paid attention to. It's called eugenol, and it's found in cloves. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cloves? The spice you use in pumpkin pie? That's supposed to help with libido and blood flow? Stay with me. Eugenol is a phenolic compound. That means it has a unique molecular structure that allows it to interact with your cells in very specific ways. And one of the things eugenol does exceptionally well is support the production of nitric oxide by protecting and activating the enzyme called endothelial nitric oxide synthase, or eNOS. Think of eNOS as the foreman in the nitric oxide factory. Eugenol acts like a bodyguard for that foreman. It reduces oxidative damage. It calms inflammation. It keeps the enzyme functional and responsive. And when eNOS is working properly, nitric oxide levels rise. blood vessels relax, circulation improves, and blood flow to all the areas that matter starts coming back online. But here's the thing, eugenol doesn't work alone. And this is where most people get it wrong. They read an article about cloves being good for circulation, they sprinkle some in their coffee, and then wonder why nothing happens, because the body doesn't respond to isolated compounds the way it responds to synergistic systems. You need more than just one signal. You need a network of support. Let me introduce you to the second piece of this puzzle, L-citrulline. L-citrulline is an amino acid, and it's one of the most efficient precursors to nitric oxide production your body can use. When you consume L-citrulline, your body converts it into L-arginine, which then gets converted into nitric oxide by that same ENOS enzyme we just talked about. Now, you might be thinking, why not just take L-arginine directly? Because L-arginine breaks down too quickly in your digestive system. Most of it never makes it to your bloodstream, but L-citrulline, it slips right through. It's absorbed efficiently, converted slowly, and creates a steady, sustained release of nitric oxide over several hours. It's like the difference between throwing gasoline on a fire and laying down a slow-burning log. One gives you a flash, the other gives you warmth all day long. And here's where it gets interesting. When you combine eugenol from cloves with L-citrulline, you're not just adding two things together. You're creating a multiplier effect. The eugenol protects the enzyme, the L-citrulline feeds the enzyme. Together they restore the entire pathway, but we're still not done, because there's a third element that almost no one talks about, and it's arguably the most important, your mitochondria. These are the tiny powerhouses inside every cell in your body. They produce ATP, which is the energy currency your cells use to do everything. And guess what? Your vascular endothelial cells are absolutely packed with mitochondria, because producing nitric oxide, relaxing blood vessels, and managing circulation takes energy. A lot of energy, but after decades of oxidative stress, poor nutrition, environmental toxins, and chronic inflammation, your mitochondria start to lose function. They become sluggish, they produce less ATP, and when your endothelial cells don't have enough energy, they can't make nitric oxide, even if all the raw materials are there. It's like having a fully stocked kitchen, but no electricity to run the stove. So what supports mitochondrial function? Magnesium. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, and a huge percentage of those reactions happen inside your mitochondria. Without adequate magnesium, your cells simply can't produce energy efficiently, and most men over 50 are chronically low in magnesium, not because they're deficient in their diet, but because stress, medication, and age all deplete magnesium faster than it gets replenished. When you restore magnesium levels, mitochondrial function improves, energy production rises, and suddenly, the entire vascular system has the power it needs to function the way it's supposed to. So now we have three elements working together. Eugenol from cloves, protecting and activating the nitric oxide enzyme, L-citrulline, feeding the pathway with the raw materials it needs, and magnesium, powering the mitochondria so your cells have the energy to do the work. But that's only part of the story, because there's one more biological roadblock we haven't addressed yet. And if you don't clear this roadblock, everything else we've talked about will only get you halfway there. It's called chronic low-grade inflammation. Inflammation is your body's natural response to injury or infection. It's supposed to be temporary. You get hurt, inflammation shows up, healing happens, inflammation goes away. But in most men over 50, inflammation never goes away. It just lingers, quietly, invisibly, damaging tissues, weakening blood vessels, and blocking the very pathways we're trying to restore. This kind of inflammation doesn't come from a single injury. It comes from years of accumulated stress, poor sleep, processed foods, environmental toxins, and metabolic dysfunction, and it wreaks havoc on your vascular system. Inflamed blood vessels can't relax properly. They can't produce nitric oxide efficiently, and even when nitric oxide is produced, inflammation breaks it down before it can do its job. So you're fighting a losing battle. You're trying to build something up while inflammation is tearing it back down. Unless you address the inflammation, nothing sticks. And this is where cloves reveal their second superpower. Cloves are one of the highest rated natural sources of antioxidants on the planet. Gram for gram, they contain more antioxidant compounds than almost any other food. And antioxidants do one thing exceptionally well: they neutralize free radicals. Free radicals are unstable molecules that damage your cells, trigger inflammation, and accelerate aging. When free radicals are running wild in your vascular system, they destroy nitric oxide on contact. They damage the endothelial lining. They keep the entire system in a state of chronic dysfunction. But when you flood your system with antioxidants, especially the polyphenols found in cloves, you start neutralizing those free radicals. Inflammation begins to settle, oxidative stress decreases, and the endothelial lining gets a chance to heal. It's like finally putting out the small fires that have been burning in the background for years. And once those fires are out, everything else we've been talking about can finally take hold. Now, here's where most men make a critical mistake. They hear this information, and they go buy a bottle of clove oil or a bag of whole cloves, and they try to use it like a supplement. A capsule here, a sprinkle there, maybe a cup of clove tea once in a while. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Because consistency is everything. Your body doesn't respond to random inputs. It responds to patterns, to rhythms, to sustained signals over time. If you want to restore nitric oxide production, improve blood flow, and reignite libido, you have to give your system the message every single day. Not occasionally, not when you remember, every day. And the way you deliver that message matters. Let me give you a simple, practical protocol that I've seen work for hundreds of men. Every morning, before your first meal, take a quarter teaspoon of ground cloves and mix it into a glass of warm water with a squeeze of fresh lemon. Drink it slowly. Let it coat your mouth and throat. Swallow it intentionally. This does several things. First, it delivers eugenol directly into your system at a time when your stomach is empty and absorption is maximized. Second, the warm water helps activate the compounds and makes them more bioavailable. Third, the lemon provides additional vitamin C, which is a cofactor for nitric oxide production. It supports the same pathway from a different angle, but here's the key. You're not doing this for an immediate rush. You're doing it to send a daily signal to your vascular system, to remind your endothelial cells that they have what they need, to keep the enzyme active, to maintain the pathway. Within 2 to 3 weeks, many men start noticing subtle shifts. More energy in the morning, better mental clarity, a sense of warmth and circulation in their extremities. By 6 weeks, the changes become more obvious. Stamina improves, recovery from exercise gets faster, and yes, libido starts waking up. Not like flipping a switch, but like turning up a dimmer. Gradually, steadily, naturally. Now, if you want to amplify this even further, here's what you do. Add L-citrulline to the mix. You can get it from watermelon, particularly the rind, or you can take it as a standalone amino acid. Either way, consume it about 30 minutes before physical activity or intimate moments. Why? Because L-citrulline takes about 30 to 60 minutes to convert into nitric oxide. And when it does, you get a sustained boost in blood flow that lasts for several hours. Combine that with the daily clove ritual, and you're hitting the pathway from 2 directions. One is maintaining baseline function, the other is amplifying performance when it matters most. And if you really want to go deeper, add a magnesium supplement in the evening. Magnesium glycinate works best because it's highly absorbable and doesn't cause digestive upset. Take it about an hour before bed. Why at night? Because magnesium supports relaxation, improves sleep quality, and allows your mitochondria to recover and regenerate while you rest. And better sleep means better hormone production, which directly impacts libido and vitality. So now you have a 3-part rhythm. Morning. Cloves and lemon for vascular activation. Pre-activity, L-citrulline for nitric oxide amplification. Evening. Magnesium for mitochondrial recovery and deep rest. This isn't complicated. This isn't extreme, but it's intentional, and intention is what your body responds to. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine waking up in the morning and actually feeling ready for the day. Not dragging yourself out of bed, not needing 3 cups of coffee just to feel human, but genuinely awake, clear-headed, energized. Imagine looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing someone who still has presence, confidence, vitality, Not the faded version of who you used to be, but the evolved version of who you're becoming. Imagine being in a moment of intimacy with your partner and not worrying, not doubting, not second guessing whether your body will show up the way you want it to, because you know it will, because you've been feeding it, supporting it, restoring it. This is what happens when you stop compensating and start rebuilding. When you stop forcing your body to perform and start giving it what it actually needs. When you stop accepting decline as inevitable and start recognizing it as reversible. Because here's the truth most men never hear. Aging doesn't steal your vitality, neglect does. And the difference between a man who feels 60 at 50 and a man who feels 40 at 60 isn't genetics. It's not luck, it's attention, it's intention. It's the willingness to do small, consistent things that most people ignore. Now, I need to be clear about something. This isn't a magic bullet. This isn't going to reverse 20 years of poor habits in 2 weeks, and this isn't a substitute for taking care of the fundamentals. You still need to move your body. You still need to manage stress. You still need to sleep. You still need to eat real food most of the time. But when you add this protocol on top of a foundation that's even halfway decent, the compounding effect is profound, because you're not just adding one thing, you're activating an entire system. You're restoring a biological pathway that's been dormant. You're giving your body permission to function the way it was designed to, and your body wants to function that way. It's just been waiting for the right signals. So here's what I want you to think about. What would change in your life if you had the energy and confidence you had 10 years ago? What would you do differently? How would you show up? What conversations would you have? What risks would you take? Because that version of you isn't gone. It's just buried under years of depletion, stress, and misinformation. And it doesn't take a miracle to bring it back. It just takes the right understanding, the right tools, and the willingness to start. You don't have to overhaul your entire life tomorrow. You don't have to commit to some extreme transformation. You just have to start with one thing. One glass of water with cloves and lemon in the morning. One intentional decision to stop accepting decline as normal. One signal to your body that says, I'm not done yet. And if you do that consistently for the next 30 days, I promise you, something will shift. You'll feel it first in your energy, then in your focus, then in your confidence, and eventually in every area of your life that depends on vitality. Because vitality isn't about youth, it's about function, and function can be restored at any age. So take a moment right now and ask yourself, am I ready to stop settling? Am I ready to give my body what it's actually asking for? Am I ready to see what's possible when I stop forcing and start supporting? If the answer is yes, you already know what to do. Start tomorrow morning. One glass, one habit, one signal, and see where it takes you.